Hey, it's the Midnight Raven, and today we're going to do a tier list. I haven't done one of these in absolutely ages, and I've recently been re-watching some of the American Horror Story stuff, and I recently saw someone do a tier list, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do one. I have watched every season up to the recent one, Delicate, and we're going to go through them, we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to rank them. So we're going to rank them in 4 different categories. We're going to rank them as top series, rewatchable, average, or just not my thing. So very simple, 4 categories, very simple. If you haven't watched American Horror Story, I do implore you to watch the series. Some of them are better than others. There are some likable characters. There are some serial killers throughout some of these, which I actually like. I'm quite a fan of a serial killer. If you watch my channel enough, you will know I have an interest in the macabre. And when these came out, these were exactly what I wanted to watch. So we're going to start with the first one. As you can see here, we have American Horror Story. So for me, American Horror Story, it enters a pretty samey, modern kind of ish house, and you basically, this house is full of ghosts, former residents that haunt the house. Now, for me, there are a few characters that are quite good, some not so much. So obviously, the most obvious one would be Evan Peters playing Tate Langdon, who ended up shooting up a school. Not exactly the most great character, but you do fall for him until you find out that he shot up a school. Then you have his sort of love interest, Violet, who is just a teenager going through a rough time, who then discovers she actually killed herself halfway during the series, which isn't great. She didn't realize she was already dead and was actually a ghost within the house as well, which is, my personal favorite. You have Constance Langdon. She's just perfect. Jessica Lange is just so great at acting. And then you have Ben Harmon, which is Dylan McDermott. Not a big fan, must admit. Not a big fan. And then you do have Dennis O'Hare, who plays Larry, the weird kind of burnt guy, who, if you watch the program, you'll know he's got like burns on him. There are some other people that feature in it, but for me, the series itself would be rewatchable. I wouldn't put it top. I mean, it's okay. And when it first came out, it was like, pow, this is brilliant. You also get the Rubber Man in it, which some people found a bit freaky. I found it just a bit normal. What does that say about me? I'm not so sure. But less of that. Okay, so moving on, we go on to series 2, which takes us to American Horror Stories Asylum. So this is the second series, and it takes place in 1964 and follows the stories of staff and inmates who occupy a mental health institution at Briarcliff Manor, and it interacts with quite some unsavory characters. Not gonna lie, this one was a really cool watch. We did get some really good development in some of the characters, like Zachary Quinto. His character really had a twist at the end. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but there was a twist. You had Sarah Paulson's character, coming to the asylum to write a piece. Jessica Lange, again, nailing her character. Evan Peters. All of these people had really good characters. Some of them were more developed than others. You did have some of the lesser parts. The only issue I have with series 2 is the alien part in like the last episode or two. The alien part, Not feeling it. I didn't feel it then. I have rewatched it. I still don't feel the alien part. I know aliens come in to American Horror Story later in the series, but just didn't feel. I just didn't feel it. But there were some really, really, really good, obviously Sarah Paulson as Lana Winters was a memorable acting. Lily Rabe as Sister Mary Eunice was, her acting on that was on point, being a sweet, innocent nun to then worshipping the devil effectively. She went from one to the other, and that is why the acting in this, the storyline was okay for me. The Nazi German doctor thing, chopping off the legs, it was kind of more gorier than American Horror Story, the Murder House, so I did like the fact that they ramped up the gore a bit. But for me, it was the acting. The acting was just so on point. You cannot fault the acting in this series. Okay, so next we get to series 3, and we are at the witch's lair, as I call it, the Coven. So this is set in New Orleans and follows a coven of witches that descend on Salem, and it does feature one of my personal favorites, the Axe Killer. I think he was called the Axe Killer. I can't remember his name. Yeah, the Axeman of New Orleans, which adds a romantic love interest. But the witches Coven themselves, you got Sarah Paulson again, Emma Roberts, not exactly my favorite. Evan Peters comes back again. Lily Rabe comes up. Tassia from Major. Queenie, obviously, Queenie featured in it. There were some memorable characters. Obviously, Lily Rabe as Misty Day, especially for me. Delphine Lalaurie. Oh, how could we forget Kathy Bates as Darlene Lalaurie? Her character was so cool and funny in parts and then serious in others. Then you had Queenie coming in, being the badass black woman as you need a badass black woman. For me, the series itself had a great storyline. It had lots of goings on. It wasn't like really slow. Then you obviously had them doing the 7 wonders. I think it was 7. To see who would become the new Coven leader. And for me, that puts the Coven at the top as well. I must admit, it was a series that I have once again rewatched, and it will be a series that I would continue to rewatch. So, series 4, we have Freak Show, which is set in 1952 in Jupiter, Florida, and tells the stories of the last remaining freak show in the United States and their struggle for survival. So we had a lot of returning characters again. Sarah Paulson came back, Evan Peters came back, Emma Roberts came back, Jessica Lange came back, Angela Bassett came back, Kathy Bates, Dennis O'Hare, and then we had Finn Wittrock, which was a really interesting character for me. So the storyline itself was about a bunch of freaks, and they have some interesting characters within the story. It wasn't like the most exciting. Obviously, Evan Peters was playing Lobster Boy. Sarah Paulson played Bet and Dot Tatler, which were technically conjoined twins. And then you had the Bearded Lady, which was Kathy Bates. Then you had a cameo from, I can't remember his name. There's a cameo from the guy that features in How I Met Your Mother. I cannot remember his name. his name. But he features in it and brings a bit of comic relief. The series itself to me isn't very memorable. I remember things from it, but I don't over remember watching it. It's one of the series I didn't really necessarily gravitate. I didn't really have a big interest in it. And as for that, the Freak Show is going in average. It was an okay season. I personally wouldn't be running to rewatch this season, but it is one I have watched more than once. But again, the series for me just lacked something. It just lacked. It could just be me. Maybe I'm judging it too much on the previous seasons, but for me it lacked. Now we're going on to one that caught people's attention was Hotel. And this is about the famous Hotel Cortez in Los Angeles that featured disturbing and paranormal events. So over the season, quite a lot of people die in this place, which is expected from a horror season nonetheless. Again, Evan Peters, Kathy Bates, Sarah Paulson features in this one. No Jessica Lange in this one. She was severely missed for this one. Lady Gaga was the main attraction in this one. In my eyes, the Blood Countess didn't do too badly. Obviously, you had Wes Bentley, Cayenne Jackson, Dennis O'Hare came back again. So for me, the hotel was quite interesting. It featured a lot of murders, and it for me wasn't the best season, but it wasn't the worst. For me, the storyline of the hotel, you obviously had serial killer in there as well, because you've always got to have a serial killer in American Horror Story. It was okay. Some of the performances for me, Evan Peters' character as James Patrick March, I wasn't a big fan of. Now, Dennis O'Hare as Liz Taylor, people say that he was the best in it. I just couldn't get into his character. The hotel, isn't regarded as being the best season of all. A lot of people kind of slagged it off because Lady Gaga was in it. And for me, Hotel is rewatchable. It's not great, but it's not terrible. For me, it kind of borders in the middle. Okay, so next we are going to a season that should have been the original season when they first wanted to bring this out. American Horror Stories Roanoke was going to be the original series, and they didn't bring it out. They chose to bring out Murder House. So this follows supernatural experiences around a haunted house in Roanoke and its surrounding areas in northern Carolina. So this season, again for me, the people that stand out are Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates as Agnes Mary Winstead really did stand out. It's kind of an unmemorable season for me. I don't remember a lot of the story. I know it's around the Roanoke place and consisted of 10 episodes, which is an average series. And, I think the series itself, if it had come out first, I don't know whether I would have watched it, because it did come out. It for me, it was kind of a weird season. Again, kind of paranormal in it. The second half is found footage. The first half is them documenting the house's supposed paranormal. And I'm not sure if it had come out like that, I'd have wanted to see it. The whole found footage thing back in the day was overkill, overdone. Way too many people were putting it into films and stuff. But Kathy Bates really sold this series to me, and I am going to put that in rewatchable. It's not top for me, the found footage stuff. Some of the characters were a bit getting on your nerves. Sorry, some of the characters just got on my nerves. It's just what it is. So the next series we go on to was one of my less favorites. Now, this is controversial in itself, and it was Cult. Now, Cult takes place in the fictional suburbia of Brookfield Heights in Michigan during the year 2017. And this is technically the political one. This is delving into the politics. Now, once again, Evan Peters, Sarah Paulson, do really well to hold the series. Evan Peters' character, he plays Andy Warhol in it. He plays Kai Anderson, which is probably my favorite. You get Billy, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Lloyd or Lord. You get Alison Pyle, or Peel. I didn't really like her character. This series, for me, the only redeeming feature for me is Twisty the Clown. Obviously, I love Twisty. I think he brought a bit of comic yet curiousness. The whole Donald Trump thing, the politics for me. I kind of zone out on a politics thing, and for that reason, Cult is not my thing. The whole politics thing isn't really my thing. I'm more here for the blood, the gore, the weirdness, and it just seemed a bit too real life for me. Just too real life. But, as I always say, it is each to their own. Now we come to one that has this one had issues for me, and this was American Horror Story Apocalypse. So this covers two different things. You've got the witches in New Orleans as they battle the Antichrist in their attempt to prevent the world from ending. And then you also have the ongoings at the outpost. For me, it was a hard series to watch. It kind of, for me, just lackluster. It just seemed to be missing something. I don't know if it had too many storylines going on. You get Sarah Paulson as Wilhelmina. Evan Peters features in it as 4 different characters. They do so well to play so many characters. You get Leslie Grossman coming in. I don't like any of the characters she's played in American Horror Story. I don't know if it's her acting or what. I just don't gravitate towards her. Kathy Bates, again, pops up as Delphine Lalaurie. You get Emma Roberts in there. For me, Apocalypse falls short. The Antichrist stuff is kind of cool, but some of the Outpost stuff, the series drags. And then you get the interesting bits and it finishes. So for me, Apocalypse is not my thing. There are some redeemable characters, there's some interesting plot lines, but for me, it falls short. It just falls short of what I consider American Horror Story. So next came a series that you'll either love or you'll hate, and this is the 1984 series. So this features in Los Angeles during the 1980s and focuses on the staff of a summer camp that opens after a massacre 14 years prior. So this is it was interesting. You didn't have a lot of repeat characters in this one. You did have Emma Roberts come back, Leslie Grossman, Billy Lord, or Lude. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. You did get Cody Fenn, and you did get some other people. For me, Richard Ramirez, did we need him in it? I don't know if he brought too much to the table. As much as I love Richard Ramirez as a serial killer, I don't know if he brought anything to the series. And at one point, there were quite a few storylines intertwining. You had a lot of going on, but I personally didn't really like the season. For me, it was average. It's not really for me. I must admit, I did watch it, but I'm not in a rush to like rewatch it. I'm sorry, people. I'm just not. I hate to say, not in like a big rush. So next came double feature, which was mostly on aliens. Now, I can't remember too much about this one. If I'm really honest, it featured aliens, and for me, it was split into two. You had the first story, which was Red Tide, which was focusing on a family in Provincetown who met the mysterious true inhabitants, who turned out to be weird, if I remember rightly, vampires slash kind of zombies. I can't remember too much about it, if I'm honest. Sarah Paulson again, Evan Peters, Lily Rabb. But for me, it just, it's always the kind of alien weird stuff that gets me. I'm not a big fan of aliens, I must admit. Not a big fan. So it's going in not my thing. I'm sorry. It's just not my thing. It didn't do it for me. Next, we have the second half of the double feature, which takes place in New York City. This is technically season 11, and focuses on the string of killings involving gay men and the emergence of a new virus, AIDS. So this one was actually not that bad. I actually kind of enjoyed this one. Again, I wish it was a bit more fast-paced. It didn't have, again, too many repeating characters. You did have Leslie Grossman, Billy Lord. You had Sandra Bernhard that came in. Zachary Quinto again, and Dennis O'Hare. And it featured, the gay scene and focusing on the string of killers. And then you had the obsessed person trying to be the influencer, focusing on these murders and stuff. And it was interesting. I would probably put it in rewatchable. I wouldn't say it's a series again that I would like jump to rewatch. I'm sorry, guys, but it just lacked something for me. And the last one, oh dear, Delicate. So this ran into trouble. The Delicate series, as much as I love the series, it did take ages to come out, and then it was split in two, and I know they had the strikes for the writers, and it caused a lot of problems trying to bring it out. But it is based on Danielle Valentine's book Delicate Condition, and the first and only series to be based on a novel instead of having an original storyline. So in this, it features a pregnancy, and a lot of weird stuff happens to women when they are pregnant. And the series itself, for me, kind of lacked. I know it was split in two. I know there was like consistency problems of having it aired like straight from one to the other, and then obviously the seasons were cut in half. But you did have Emma Roberts, and I found her character annoying. I found the storyline a bit and then you get Kim Kardashian in, that for me just didn't work. I know we had Lady Gaga in Hotel. Kim Kardashian, she tried to be a bitch in the series, and her character for me just fell flat. Kind of blasé, for me. And then you had, obviously, because it was split, you had that kind of gap in between the story. But Anna, obviously, having a baby, having these weird things happen to her, and she thinks she's seeing things, and she thinks she's crazy. But what they actually want the baby for is satanic. Of course it is. Why wouldn't you want the baby for satanic things? So she ends up having the baby in the end. And the whole thing, kind of like, Rosemary's Baby, kind of like the devil child. Yeah, I don't know. It again for me, just lackluster. Would it have preferred it had the 2 seasons or the parts of the series been together rather than having like 6 months or 8 months in between? I don't think so. I think the story had already fallen flat for me. So I'm gonna put it in not my thing. As much as I love the fact that doing like a pregnancy horror is cool and different, I don't think it really gelled with me. So I know this is a bit of a quick video, but my top shows are American Horror Story Asylum and American Horror Story Coven, followed by some fairly good ones. And then the bottom are, I hate to say it, we have Cult, Apocalypse, the Alien one, which I can't remember what it was called, the double feature. Alien part of it more than the other one. The AIDS one I didn't find too bad with the gay community. And then Delicate. I don't know if I rewatched it and rewatched it all together instead of having 6 months in the middle. Maybe I would like it more. But this is my scope on the American Horror Story franchises as they are obviously coming out, hopefully. We'll have a new series. But I don't know, season 12, Delicate, fell short for me. Ryan Murphy, as much as he will try, it's a really interesting concept, the American Horror Stories, but it's keeping people interested. And I think Delicate just didn't do it for me. But I would watch a new series if it came out, and I would give it, as they call it, the college try. But hopefully, fingers crossed, a little bit better this time. But if you want to like and subscribe and give us a big thumbs up, let me know down below. Would you change my scoring? Do you feel I should have been a bit more generous to some of them? Maybe I would love to rewatch Freak Show. Maybe give Hotel another watch. But I'm one of these days I'm going to start from the beginning and rewatch all of them, just because some of these series deserve to have the limelight a bit more, and maybe a rewatch would change my mind. But if you want to like and subscribe and support the channel with a PayPal, Super Chat, or Super Thanks, become a member, support the channel, support the Raven. Comment down below your thoughts and ideas and critiques, and I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.